Why don't people want to die? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany Simon. In today's podcast, we're going to cover the movie Don't Look Up. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to spoil it. The movie came out a few years ago, and I think it's on Netflix. I just watched it, and I have a lot to say about bubbles. Before we jump in, I'm drinking a dandelion tea, and it is very delicious. Okay, with that said, let's move on and jump right into this bubble movie. This movie is a perfect representation of bubbles. I want to start off with the premise of why don't people want to die? So this whole podcast is basically going to question why people pretend they want to live, but don't live a life that's fulfilling. And then why do people who want to die seem to be people who, depending on who you are, could be better at living sometimes. I actually think I'm great at living because I want to die so much, but I don't really want to die. I just am frustrated with living in a world that I have to share with everybody else who thinks that they have the answer for 8 billion people. It's very frustrating to live in a world where everyone thinks they have an answer for your life when they don't know you and they don't have the answer for your life. Now, in this film, we see people panic because Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence are scientists who discover that a comet is about to hit the Earth. But the people who panic versus the people who don't is interesting, and when and why they panic is even more interesting. So, as an example, the movie starts off with them discovering this comet is going to come blow up the Earth. They freak out. They contact the president. Who is it? Meryl Streep, playing this Trump-esque character. Very interesting, very funny. I love it. Jonah Hill plays her son. It's hilarious. I love it. Everything about it, I love it. But what I'm seeing is a very human reflection of humans. I'm seeing a very human movie. Humans are gonna human is a saying on this channel because I think what happens is people are born into bubbles. They exist in bubbles. Sometimes they bubble hop without even realizing it. Sometimes they have a great conversion. I was an atheist and now I'm religious. I was religious, now I'm an atheist. I was a Republican and now I'm a Democrat. People have transformations in life and still don't recognize how they are the people who fall into two camps: the don't look up people and the look up people. Now, obviously the world is diverse and there's 8 billion people, but I'm using them as the example. I'm not sure if this movie is a parody, a tragedy, a comic, a dramedy. I'm not sure what this is. Is this satire? The movie feels too real to quite be too fake.
We've spoken on this show multiple times before about the climate crisis, how it's an existential threat to our planet. I'm at the point where I wonder if people understand what the word existential really means. And we've spoken about how our government leaders and, yes, the media aren't treating this existential crisis with the urgency it requires. In fact, there was an entire Oscar-nominated movie this year satirizing this. But the movie became eerily similar to real life just this week when a climate activist appeared on the UK morning show Good Morning Britain. So we put real life and the movie side by side for all to see. Play the tape.
Many people would agree that we have to wean ourselves off oil, but at the same time, they deeply resent having their personal lives massively interrupted.
How big is this thing? Could it destroy someone's house? Is that possible?
I don't think any of us want to be disrupting people's lives, but I think given the science and the things that academics are saying about what oil is causing around the world and in this country too, this is the level of action that needs to be taken.
It's somewhere between 6 and 9 kilometers across, so
it's big.
It would damage the entire planet, not just a house.
I wonder if any of you have read the latest IPCC reports that have come out this year. Yeah. You know, what they have said is that we are on the road for climate catastrophe.
Well, as it's damaging, will it hit this one house in particular that's right on the coast of New Jersey? It's my ex-wife's house that needed to be hit.
The clothes that you're wearing, to some extent, owe their existence to oil because they were taken in a car or a truck or a van to a shop, you know?
I'm sorry, are we not being clear?
We're talking about crop failure by 2030. We're talking about people in this country right now in fuel poverty because of the prices of oil, and you're talking about the clothes that I'm wearing.
No.
We're trying to tell you that the entire planet is about to be destroyed.
Well, and for those who are planning to get away over the Easter holidays, could they expect more disruption, do you think?
There's something we do around here. You know, we just keep the bad news light.
A case of life imitating art, if you're allowed to use that cliche when life on planet Earth is the very thing that's hanging in the balance.
Even the celebrities in the film are kind of playing themselves. In a weird way, Ariana Grande's character, Briley, whatever, she's like the celebrity, she's hot, but she's a bitch. She's dramatic, she's got toxic relationships with Kid Cudi, who plays DJ Cello. They have a relationship, they have this whole toxic online, I love you, baby, I'm sorry I cheated, baby, I love you. This is all things I've seen in real life. Now, the thing is, our real life is also online, and a lot of it is reality TV, where it's half real, half not real. So even when we reflect on what is real in our real life, we have to ask ourselves, is this real or not? When I say YouTubers, and I know them behind closed doors and they act differently on camera, or they have things they don't share, they keep certain things private. The question is, how do you know when you know somebody? How do you know when you know you're seeing what you're seeing? So when I see Ariana Grande play a character that looks like Ariana Grande, but amplified, I kind of feel like I'm just watching Ariana Grande. Because to be honest, she is a spoiled, privileged, rich, dramatic, trauma, toxic, back and forth relationship woman. Now, I know she's married and settled now, and apparently it's great. Cool. But we all know the last relationship she had, she wrote a song about it. So we know that this is a girl who's playing a role that's basically herself, but then it's a movie that's supposed to make us aware and do social commentary on how we're, what, different than them, worse than them, better than them? It's confusing. I'm not really sure what the film thought it was doing, but like every celebrity is in this film. Everyone you've ever heard of is in this film, and I don't know how they're any different than the characters they're playing, truly. Okay, so the movie starts off with basically them discovering the comet, them going to the president, Meryl Streep, the Trump character, and then telling her, what do we do? She doesn't panic. She doesn't believe it. So many times the world has been on the brink of destruction and not happened. So in her head, this is one of those moments. Kind of fair. I mean, to be fair, it's always World War III here. We're always on the brink of a civil war. We're always on the brink of economic collapse. But for the most part, even though it's a struggle, the major scary things aren't happening. Even during COVID, no offense, it didn't feel like the end of the world. It might have felt like the end of the world for individual families. So true. But a lot of people didn't feel a difference during their COVID years. Well, some people felt slight differences. Like I felt slight differences, but not a lot. Just, it was definitely different. But it wasn't the end of the world feeling that I thought I would feel. But for some people, it felt like that, right? And then you saw how we all reacted.
So how certain is this?
There's 100% certainty of impact.
Please, don't say 100%.
Can we just call it a potentially significant event?
Yeah.
Yes.
A massive fireball speeding towards Earth, promising to obliterate the planet.
You guys discovered a comet?
Comedy isn't exactly what comes to mind, but the new film, Don't Look Up, from Oscar-winning writer and director Adam McKay, is counting on laughter to focus audiences on a deadly serious matter.
This is kind of the feel-good, feel-bad movie of the year. How did you pull that off?
It's a pretty good description. We made this movie during the pandemic, before there was even a vaccine. So I think we were all in the mood to laugh because things were so grim. But at the same time, we needed to feel some other feelings as well.
Put the moment of impact on a diet app. So impact is when my diet ends.
After seeing the movie last night, something kind of resonated in me. It's how we process bad news and how it becomes a debate, how truth and facts can be distorted or politicized. It was amazing to witness what was going on in real time as we were making this movie. I mean, we were sitting there trying to explain science as Fauci was doing the same thing.
You also said yesterday, I think, that you were a little bit of a Debbie Downer on this issue. I mean, it's hard not to feel a little bit hopeless.
Yeah, I am a bit of a Debbie Downer because the clock is absolutely ticking.
How big is this thing going? Can it destroy my ex-wife's house? Is that possible?
There's a 100% chance that we're all going to die.
Same thing in this movie. We are all going to make choices. But frankly, coming from my perspective, I hope a comet hits us and we all die. I hope if Russia attacks, a nuke hits me right on the head. I don't want to live in a world that's like all destroyed. There's no water, no resources, and we're all, we're all free to do whatever we want in such an extreme way that it becomes just like an apocalyptic reality. I don't want to live in that. But apparently a lot of people do. Apparently a lot of you are like in bunkers, you're doing the prepping stuff, you want to survive a nuclear fallout. I don't know why. But I can understand that in many people's heads, the idea of nuclear war looks more like what we did to Japan, which was awful. And we're definitely going to pay for that in some way. Okay. But like that nuclear bomb we threw on Japan, I think that's what people imagine, right? But what if you're the people in Japan who were hit 500 miles away or a distance away and still suffered from cancer and debilitating like health issues? What if you're the people who didn't get hit by the nuke, but you have to live with the fallout of the nuke? That's a very hard life. And yes, if that happened in one place versus another, maybe you could move, maybe you could relocate. But what if it happened to the whole planet? Like if every part of the planet was hit, would you want to exist in that world? Season 3 of American Horror Story, which is season 6, the season where the witches come back and it's the end of the world and it's an apocalypse. Think about those rich people that wanted to live in the bunker. Think about the rich people in this movie who wanted to live in a bunker or in a spaceship and go to the next planet. Think about the people who wanted to keep living, who aren't too poor to do it. So they're rich enough to do it, basically. Why do they want to do it? Legacy, discoverability, like maybe they want to discover something, maybe they want to keep existing for a lot of like wealth reasons versus wholesome, I want to have kids, I want to procreate reasons, or maybe I want to spend time with my family more, maybe I want to be in love longer. No. These people in this movie, Meryl Streep, the Steve Jobs character, which is Mark Rylance, Peter is his name in the movie. He has this relationship. I have the cast right here. He's like this character who's created great technology, who wants to help people, but is fundamentally very self-focused, which is fine. I am too. But he's so focused in a way that I'm not. Like I'm very much like, oh, a comet's going to hit the earth. I'm going to go spend time with my family, hug my partner, and peace out. He's more like, oh, the planet's going to end. I'm going to build a spaceship and go to the next planet. But he's old. He's not going to procreate. Doesn't have family or friends depicted in the film. He doesn't have any caring or close relationships. Frankly, good for him. In the movie, it is clear that there's good guys and bad guys. But to be honest with you, I'm not sure he's a bad guy. So throughout the film, we're seeing all kinds of bubbles interact with one another. The don't look up people, the look up people, the people who don't care, the rebels, the kids. Everybody's just experiencing it differently, handling it differently, believing it at different stages, right? They try to make YouTube videos. They try to tell the news. They try to tell people the world's ending, and no one's reacting the way they thought they would. J-Law and Leonardo DiCaprio. Nobody is quite believing them until they can see the comet. And then even then, there's groups of people that haven't looked up, so they haven't seen the comet. It's just interesting. It's fascinating. And I think it's a true expression of the human condition. But I think ultimately it comes back to that question of why don't people want to die? And I mean quickly and without pain. What are you missing out on? What kind of life are you living that you're so afraid to die? You're afraid to face the truth. You're afraid to let that comet be real. Right? Because then you go home and you're grumpy. You go home and you're not paying your bills. You go home and you're hitting your kids. You go home and you're cheating on your wife or husband. What are you eagerly holding on to? Right? Now, the reason I think humans are going to human is because I believe in free will, and I think the world's a reflection of our feelings, our choices, and what we want from existence. We want Kim Kardashian. We want Apple products. We want to be addicted to social media. We want TikTok. You guys make it possible. Rich people don't become rich for fun. Or not for fun. They do. They probably could. But rich people don't just become rich. They're dependent on people buying their products, right? They're dependent on people giving them money. And they're not people holding all the resources. In the same way, you don't have to have a world that moves in that direction. There are lots of bubbles on this planet Earth that don't even have access to internet, right? And they're existing. But you might think to yourself, I don't want to exist like that. So it's worth giving my money to these billionaires, and it's worth these billionaires then building a spaceship where they freeze themselves and go to another planet while you die. But that's up to you. And I actually agree with you that, frankly, I'm open to the idea of like, yeah, take my money, have fun with it, bro. I'm just going to like spend time with my family and chill. Because I don't desire wealth or fame. That's not interesting to me. I don't desire this idea of like living past death. I don't want to like freeze my body. I don't want to go to a different planet. I just want to live my life happy and serene, and then I want to die. That's how I want to, okay? That's me. But what is it for you? Why do you want to keep existing? And if you want to keep existing, past a comet, past war, past economic, strife, what does your life look like? And is it good enough to stay alive for? Yes is probably the answer, because I believe, and this might be crazy, that all forms of existence are sort of the right forms of existence, even if they're wrong or bad or hurt people, because that's, something that happens afterwards. But the initial desire to just say, I want to live a life where I'm a leech. It's not a very good life to me, but it's also not my job to tell you it's a bad life to you. Because again, I think we have free will. I think we're evolved animals on a planet. You can do that. The same way the billionaire can take advantage of the people who give them money and deny those people survivability by not inviting them onto the ship of 2,000 people and only inviting the wealthy and the old, ironically enough. So much for procreation. But that is the same to my brain. The billionaires who like ditch us and the people that are leeches, okay? Same. Doesn't matter. Poor or rich, it's like the same. I don't think it's a good life, but it is a life people aim for sometimes. Some people live chronically dependent, even though they could do a little bit more. They don't want to. Okay, fine. Some people work so hard their whole lives just to make enough money to survive the apocalypse. Okay, fine. Then there's the people in the middle. So Leonardo DiCaprio is this wholesome kind of middle America man who has a wife and kids and they love him and they think he's so smart and handsome and great. And then Leonardo DiCaprio becomes this like savior who is trying to warn people, and his wife and his kids are like, look at dad go, he's amazing. And then he meets Cate Blanchett, who's a news host with Tyler Perry, and then all of a sudden an affair ensues. Why would the end of the world be happening? And his thought is, I'm going to have an affair. I'm going to break the heart of the woman I love the most, the mom of my children. But you could ask yourself, well, it's the end of the world. Why not have an affair? The question is, how do you want to spend the last moments of your life? Everyone is so worried right now about dying alone, but nobody is truly honoring the relationships in their lives, nor themselves, if we're in an epidemic of loneliness. If in this own movie shows this person with this perfect family, and he gets swept up into the fame, swept up into the, I'm the celebrity scientist, this like newscaster's adding spark into my life, right? It makes me stop and wonder, why don't people want to die if when they live, all they do is hurt people around them? Myself included. But I already know that my existence hurts people. Me being on OnlyFans hurts people's feelings. Me being queer hurts people's feelings. Me being outspoken hurts people's feelings. And I'm saying that's fair, but that's why we live in bubbles. You stay over there and I'll stay over here. But if the world is ending and we have to mesh all of our bubbles, what is the bubble we all connect on? It's not our humanity, because we could be doing that right now and we don't. Somebody on my live show the other day said, because I was asking them, guys, like, what is the thing that you think collectively could bring us all together to work together? And somebody said, that we're all born equal, that we're all humans. But like, no. Some of us are born into slavery. Some of us are born into a patriarchal systems that are debilitating and horrible and 100 years behind. Some of us are born into circumstances and bubbles in which our humanity isn't recognized because the validation of the humanity comes from the mob around you. So if no one's going to humanize you, no one's going to love you, no one's going to treat you like a real person, do you have humanity? Do you exist? What does it even mean to exist? Well, that's the consciousness. But what is the consciousness? Well, it's not just this idea of I'm a don't look up person or I'm a look up person. Your consciousness isn't just a reflection of who you vote for. Your consciousness should just be something deeper and more profound than just the world around you and just what the world gives you. You should be more, if you want to be. You don't have to be because nothing matters and we're all going to die. But you should want to be, I think in my bubble, in my world, somebody who is joyful. Like really joyful. Really okay with their choices. Really proud of who they've been. Transparent and honest and all these things to the right people. But in this film, it's a struggle. In this film, it is very hard to not cling to the bubble. What's the joke? Well, not a joke, but we always say on the channel that if the world did become sort of like this, what group would we jump into? Well, I'm Middle Eastern and I'm queer and I was raised Catholic, but I'm an atheist now. And I'm an American and all these things. But none of those bubbles would really feel like home to me ultimately unless my people were there. So where do a majority of my people live? Well, it's hard to say. I guess the Catholic bubble? But not really. Probably the Middle Eastern bubble, because that means all my relatives, friends, and family. But where does my partner live? Well, my partner's not Middle Eastern. He's European. Okay, so what bubble would he go into? Oh, him and I would probably form our own, maybe. So the question is, would we form our own bubble to be with each other? And then would that mean we would alienate everyone around us? Like if the world was ending and I was in Europe with him, Would I bother getting on a plane to spend my last days with my family? Well, what about his family? I would probably just spend it with him if I'm being completely honest. My biggest fear about dying now is leaving him. My biggest fear before didn't really exist in that way because my family isn't dependent on me. None of my friends and family need me to exist for their existence to keep going in a really profound way. Like they're all going to manage. It's going to be hard, but they'd manage. I feel like my partner and I are now synced up and now we're really doing life together. So if he left or if I left, it would be very like, that would be very strange. I feel responsible for his joy. I want to keep on living a healthy and consistent existence, a zened out existence, so I can be a good partner to him. But again, if he didn't exist, so that's why it's interesting to me that Leonardo DiCaprio would cheat on his wife. Because in that moment with the world ending, all I want to do is be with my partner. What do I care about anything else? Now, my life has been different though. I've partied and done things in my 20s and traveled and I don't have a life where I didn't do those things. So if my life was ending, I don't think I'd feel a pressure to get those things over with. Versus Leonardo DiCaprio's character, I think feels that pressure, which moves into his work, which moves into his choices, which gives him existential dread and moves him into, what am I doing this for? That question is not just what am I existing for? What am I working for? What am I loving for? The question is so interestingly layered, but what am I doing this for? This could be a present moment ask. So in the movie, maybe you could ask yourself, what am I standing here protesting for? Like the people who are like, don't look up, don't look up. What are they really there for? The people who say, look up, why can't you look up? Don't you see the world's ending? Why do you care if people are going to know if they're going to die? We're all going to die. You don't have to tell anyone. It's pretty obvious. We're all going to die. Now, we're all going to die, period. Like all human beings outside of this movie are going to die. But there's something about the brain that goes, if you know you're going to die fast, you might do things different. And that's very relatable. I feel that way, where I'm like, hey, if I'm going to die fast, I'm going to do things different. Not much different. I think the biggest difference is that I wouldn't have children. If I knew I was going to die in the next 5 years, I wouldn't have kids, right? I would just chill with the people I have in my life and have a great life. And I'd probably be doing YouTube and doing the same things because my life's pretty great. My life is what I want it to be. I am doing exactly what I want in life. So there's nothing that I'm missing out on. But because people are existing and not wanting to die and yet living these lives where they're like, there's so much more I could have done, then do it now. Don't wait until the end of the world is coming. Organize your life to do it now. And I think that is kind of the key to why I'm a little bit more indifferent to dying, is I've done everything I've wanted to do. And now everything else is just everything I've needed to do. And now everything is kind of like, what do I want to do? I have a good career. I have a partner. I have good family. I have friends. I have everything I need in life. I don't need much more. I've already done all the things I've ever really wanted to do or needed to do, or I've already done everything. There's nothing that I'm like, I got to do this before I die. I've done everything I've wanted to do before I've wanted to die. So now it's a matter of how do I keep this joy going, which I think is very key. Now I know because I got chronically ill. So you guys are probably thinking, well, Brittany, didn't you want a kid? Yes, but I'm chronically ill. So now the kid is very much a want. It's very much a privilege to have a child, right? Versus in the past, I think I might have said hey, I think I really need to be a mom. But the truth is I don't really need to be a mom. I really want to be one though. And whether or not I choose to do it, I'm sort of indifferent to at this point because there are better pathways for me. In the film, I wanted to see that from somebody, from one character, someone having an understanding of themselves, and nobody did. This movie is full of twos, some introspective, some not. This movie has nobody in it. Now, one single character who knows themselves, knows what they want, and is really at peace with that. At least I don't have any recollection of any character in the film that was initially at peace when the destruction happened, which I guess is the point of the film. They want to show characters in their moments, hearing this news, having their moment, because at the end of the film, where they're having that beautiful group dinner together, I think there was a lot of peace there, a lot of radical acceptance. But I thought it was interesting that the writers decided not to really have any characters that were joyful. I think that's weird. but kind of like, I guess, honest in a way, because I think a lot of people really struggle with joy. I thought it was a little funny that as he was going on TV, Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, as they were both going on television, there was this idea that you had to present the idea of the end of the world specifically in a specific way to get the audience to hear you. And at the same time, they were never going to hear anybody. It's like when people go on news stories today, like news channels today, our real life reality today. Climate scientists will say, hey, we really got to pay attention to climate because there's something bad coming. And everyone's like, nah. Like some people are upset. You've got your Greta Thunbergs and all these other people. And honestly, can I be real with you? Greta's not doing shit. Greta is only doing shit for her ego in that bubble, but Greta isn't going to be the reason that the people come together around the world and actually do something. It's a collective effort. Everybody has to make that decision. It's not one person. It's not 100 people. It's not 1 billion people. It's a lot of fucking people have to come together to change how we operate as a community. But we're not going to do it because you don't do it right now. Look at your life right now. Don't lie to me. Are you living a life that coincides with climate change requirements for environmental, investment? Are you good about not throwing out food? Are you good about recycling? Are you good at, I'm not. I am very bad at these things, but I also don't mind the end of the world coming because I think it's part of the evolutionary process. I think everything humans do is natural because we are part of nature. And I think whether we stop a comet from killing us or let the comet kill us is the right decision. Because it's a part of what we want as a collective, as a species, is our best way to defend ourselves or not. Like, we are making collective decisions whether we want to acknowledge it or not. I'm a hardcore individualist, like Kidology says, like a staunch individualist. I believe in the individual, but I belong to a community and I do live in a society. And from what I've seen from my communities, they're not interested in resources or helping the world. I'm always reading stories about Arizona and how they were experiencing a drought and they were so worried because their water was being sent to the Middle East for some reason and their politicians were selling their water. And there's like this fear that I have when I read these articles and I'm like, oop, this is not good. But this is so human because here it is on the news. People are seeing it. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in 50 years if all Arizonians don't have water. What are you going to do about it? The politicians still have the money. You're not going to take it away from them. The Middle Eastern people have your water. Who cares? Like, nothing is being done now. And we have constant opportunity to do better. And that's why I think I do focus on the individual, because I'm going to be real with you. I think the world's going to end. And I would rather have 5 more individuals who are a little bit more joyful or not, than fixating on this problem that I don't think we're ever going to solve. I think I've seen human beings and I understand history enough to know that we don't come together. We're constantly afraid of each other. We're constantly on edge. The perfect bubble example is actually happening to my friend Steven right now, Destiny. It's such a great example. There's this bubble thing happening where he made fun of Islam and now the Muslims are mad at him. And now this Muslim named Daniel, who he's debated in the past, who's literally in front of Destiny, who's a bisexual man, said things like, well, we wouldn't hunt down homosexuals, but if we found out you were one.
Who's going to be happier? I'm not asking who's going to be happier. Let's say,
you didn't define easier for me, so I'll have to define it for myself.
Okay, sure, we'll say happier.
Yeah, liberals living in a Muslim society. Do you think everyone living in a Muslim society is going to be happier?
Do you think LGBTQ people would feel the same?
What do you mean by LGBTQ people?
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer people. Do you think they would be happier living in a Muslim society or a liberal society?
A Muslim society.
Why?
Because this is, as I said, Islam is preserving marriage, family, community, belief in God. These are things that are biologically rooted. LGBT, we can talk about whether that's biologically rooted or not. But the basis for these 4 things I mentioned, they're universal. They've been seen
this has nothing to do with my question, right?
No, it does, because human beings, there's an objective answer to what makes human beings happier.
Do you think a Muslim society would seek to eliminate LGBTQ people?
So Islamic law has prohibited same-sex behavior.
And also has rules for killing gay people if they're caught by enough witnesses, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. I've discussed this many times. Yes, absolutely. As do all traditional
Well, I'm not
cultures
arguing
and
for other
societies.
religions. I'm arguing in favor of liberalism right
No,
now.
because you're trying to present this case of liberalism versus Islam, and I'm trying to reframe it in the proper context
Well,
of
you're trying
liberalism
to-
versus all societies, all religions, and all cultures.
Okay, we can do that.
Because-
we can do that as well. But do you think that I'm going to defend another religion that would try to kill gay people? Do you think that would be an argument that I
This
would
debate
take?
is not about you defending Islam.
I'm not trying to
You're
defend
trying
Islam.
to defend,
I'm attacking it
you
right
should
now.
try to defend liberalism when I've pointed out that liberalism has these
So
kinds
I
of
am-
major
so
harms. You've
one
had no
defense-
real response to that.
I am absolutely
You're just asking these bizarre questions, and you're not answering
not-
my
so,
questions.
to be clear-
I asked a lot of your answered a lot of your
to
questions.
be clear,
let me ask a
well,
question.
hold on. I haven't asked a single bizarre question. I think my questions
You're
are very fair.
interrogating me.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this man said that very, like, confidently. And I was like, damn. Like, he's just openly saying it. He gets on Twitter and he's saying that Destiny is this liberal who really wants to genocide Muslims. Where is this paranoia from? That Destiny, the bisexual gamer boy with no muscles, wants to genocide Muslims. What is this fear? This idea that liberals secretly, you know what I mean? Maybe if you're Sam Harris and you have a lot of anxiety and paranoia, and at the same time, maybe it's just who's going to win? Because if it really comes down to it, people in general who are afraid of bubbles might outnumber the bubbles. But wars happen for a reason. It's this collective fear. So Daniel the Muslim is afraid he's going to be genocided. The Jews are afraid they're going to be genocided. The trans are afraid they're going to be genocided. I'm afraid I'm going to be genocided because I'm queer or I'm a woman or I'm on OnlyFans. Everyone is afraid of being genocided. Why? Because we know what humans have done in the past. We know what we're thinking and we know what we're capable of. I don't want to genocide anybody. I would love to live in a world where we never killed, raped, or stole from anybody. Right? Where we like live and let live. Let's all start tomorrow. Forgive everything that happened yesterday. Start again. You would still get back to where we are today. You cannot defy free will, human nature, and of course, simple desire. In this movie, it shows so perfectly how desire can shift the bubble. So Jennifer Lawrence is like the scientist. She's respected. Then she gets in front of the president and she's disrespected. Jonah Hill, Jason, is such a funny character. Disrespects the fuck out of Jennifer Lawrence, right? So eventually she ends up in this town hanging out with like people in their 20s. Timothy, what's his name? Timothy, I don't know where he is on this map. Oh, there's so many people in this movie. Morgan Freeman is in this movie? When? Bruce Willis is in this movie? Ben Affleck and Sarah Paulson? When? Liv Tyler's in this movie? This can't be right. Gerard Butler, Naomi Watts. When did all these people show up in this film? I'm so confused. Chris Evans is in this movie? Guys, I gotta watch this movie again. I completely missed all these Tom Cruise is in this movie. Anyways, Jonah Hill disrespects Jennifer Lawrence and she ends up in the small town and she's hanging out with ruffians and she's drinking and she's laying on a mattress and making out with a boy. Reminds me of my early 20s. It was a mess. The way they treated her shifted her interaction with the bubble, shifted her own understanding of herself, shifted. There's a part where she's on the Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett show and she freaks out because no one's listening. She goes like, we're gonna die. And in that moment, she's painted as like the crazy lady. Disrespected, ignored, to in her feelings. So she gives up on the life she created, the one she fought for, the one she thought meant something, and kind of just chilled. And that's kind of where I'm at constantly, where I always feel like it's the end of the world because it could happen any second. But I just want to chill. I want to work. I want to invest in a good life. But I don't know that we're not all going to die tomorrow. So I want to live with this idea that I could die tomorrow while still planning and investing because that unknown for me is like a daily real thing. While in this movie or in your life, it might just be like a 2000 crisis. Like, oh, it's the year 2000. We might die. Oh, we didn't die. Whew, okay. Oh, Russia and Ukraine are fighting. Are we going to have a nuclear war? Oh, no, we survived. Okay. It's like we forget that idea of like, oh my God, are we going to die? And then we end up moving into these bubbles and hating people and then start getting paranoid about people. And then all of a sudden we're Russell Brand on Bill Maher or we're Daniel on Twitter yelling at Destiny or we're Mr. Girl in Lab or we're anything we're seeing. We're celebrities in the news or celebrities in this movie playing basically themselves and then expecting us not to see. Like, we know what we're doing. I think we are self-aware enough as a planet, as a humanity, to know that we are not efficient, but we're doing our best. And that if it comes down to it, most of us don't really care about having good lives. We care about appealing to bubbles. We care about looking cool and getting Bugattis. And we care about being a righteous, like, religious person. But joy is found, I think, in the introspection and the understanding of what you're doing on this planet. And knowing that is really a mystery, which is why it should challenge your beliefs, but instead you double down. Don't look up, look up. Don't look up, look up. Which one are you? If you're a don't look upper, right? You're a person who's basically saying, I'm really good where I am. I'm going to stay here. If you're a look up person, you're a person who's saying, I want to be a part of the group of people who know something, but I don't want to be there until I know it. So until then, I'm going to chill. Like Timothy, I don't know his last name, his character, the boy who made out with Jennifer Lawrence, he was sort of like, this isn't happening until he saw the comet, and then he started praying. And it's interesting that in a crisis, how we revert to our roots. So the characters in the films will be like, I don't care. I'm living my life. I'm stealing. I'm bullying you. Oh my God, am I going to die? And that's what I wonder about humans. Why is it only when life is hard do you start to actually become a person? And what kind of a person do you become? One who doubles down or one who grows from it? That's the key to suffering in philosophy. Suffering is that middle place between those two realities. Suffering occurs, and then we get to make a decision. It's not always perfect. Sometimes you're angry. Sometimes you're frustrated. Sometimes it's just too much. But eventually you make a decision. Now you have to make a decision based off of your joy, but don't act like the filters of the bubbles don't come into your head. So, okay, random example, but the one that comes to mind is, this is going to sound so crazy. Do you remember when Anderson Cooper and Andy Cohen, who I've never actually watched a New Year's celebration show with, I've never actually watched the New Year's show with them. I've just seen clips sometimes. But they do this show on New Year's, used to, where they were getting drunk and more outrageous and more flirty and more gay and just like a mess. And eventually they were like, stop that. It's not good for viewers. Viewers don't want to see it. So they had to change. We scream we want authenticity, but what we want to do is appeal to the bubble, right? And I get that. I want to be mature and mannered and I want to show up my best for events. But within that showing up to your best, you're also sort of showing up to people's perception of best. So when I think about the world and I think about that desire for authenticity and the desire for truth, I wonder if people are really okay with it not being as clear cut, not being as black and white, right? If Kidology and FD Signifier can't get along, I don't know why you think we're going to have world peace, right? Okay, so when I look at the world and I look at these small instances, Kim Kardashian, reality TV, YouTubers, drama, Trump, Twitter, Elon, all I see is a bunch of bubbles honestly doing exactly what this movie does. This movie is just real life. It's like a mockumentary. I was thinking about mental health in relation to this, because in mental health communities, we're always talking about authenticity, being real, being ourselves, but we're really afraid to be because we could lose our jobs. We get ostracized from our bubble, kicked out of our churches, removed from our place of happiness within our community. But then that begs the question, is mental health about stability, consistency, taking the right pills? Is introspection, inner joy, philosophy about avoiding death, avoiding suffering, accepting suffering? It depends on what kind of philosophy bubble you're in, what kind of religious bubble you're in, what kind of a belief you have around our existence. So this movie, it's so simple. It's not very profound, but it is sort of frustrating to watch as a person who's been trying to scream to the world like, hello, bubbles. But at the same time, everything that I thought would happen is happening. No one believes you. They don't want to do it. They want to be Andrew Tate fans or Destiny fans or Mr. Girl fans or Brad Pitt fans or Jennifer Aniston or taking teams, or they want to be Trump fans or Biden fans, or they want to be a part of something outside of themselves, because a thing that is inside of yourself is so much work to cultivate. Why not just look to others to fulfill it? And don't get me wrong, I don't think our relationship with our consciousness comes strictly from within. I think it is counterbalanced by the relationships we have in our lives. But those relationships have to exist for a reason. You can't just have them, because that's what settling feels like. That's when mental health is compromised. That's when you wake up at 45 and have a midlife crisis because you don't know how you got here, right? So as I'm watching this movie again, I keep asking myself, why don't people want to die? How would you tell someone they're going to die? How would you explain it to the world that they're going to die? What if Russia came out tomorrow and said, okay, we're literally going to nuke the whole world. We don't care. Fuck everybody. And then somebody nukes them and they nuke each other and then the whole world dies. It won't matter because we'll all be dead. But could we have avoided it? Kind of, not really. Do we participate in it? Totally. Because at the end of the day, what if Putin was somebody else? What if you were somebody else? What if I was somebody else? Think about something really micro, like a landlord not working with you, even if you pay rent every month because they're eager for something else. I can't even make a cohesive relationship with my landlord. I can't even get my mother to be pro-gay because it's too much in contradiction with her religion. I can't get FD signifier and kidology to get along. I can't get friends to tell the truth. I can get people to be transparent. I can't even. So it's not about giving up. It's about looking at this movie, looking at your life, looking at the bubbles and saying, okay, what do I want to do within this reality? And then doing it. But then I have to question, and it's really interesting, why, if we all have the same amount of free will, whether you believe it or not, would some people choose to rape children, steal, torture family members? Well, you could say we're evolved animals over time, and that was a part of our DNA and genetics and our mental health, and they didn't really have a choice. They were just doing what felt natural to them, much like a bear who eats a man in the forest. Maybe. I'm open to that idea, for sure. On a spectrum, absolutely. So when I look at this movie and I'm watching everybody do everything they're doing, everything makes sense. Because if I was the president, I would do what the president did, because that's who she is. If I was Jason, I would do what Jason did. If I was the scientist, I would do what the scientist did. Because those people are doing what makes sense for them. We all are. And I'm not sure that you're any better for being the billionaire who went to the other planet or being the family that died together in each other's arms. I think they're about equal. Because they might serve some form of joy for those people. I'm not sure what the joy is, though, for some of them. I know what joy is when you're with family and friends and you're connecting with people who see you. I know what that is like because I've had that. I have that. I don't know what it's like to be a secluded billionaire who doesn't have any of those things and only cares about existing. I have no way to relate to that. I can't say if it's bad or good. It seems shallow, but I can't tell if that's my bias. Somebody described this movie as an exaggerated imitation of life, and I thought that was really interesting. And I love that idea that life itself, movies, shows, everything we're watching is like an exaggerated version of reality. But then that begs the question, why don't people change their lives after watching a movie like this? Is it not profound enough? Is it too shallow? Does it seem fake? Does it not seem close to reality? Obviously, for myself, you guys know my journey. And if you don't, links down below for some fun videos to watch. But I've been in these bubbles. I've been the don't look up people. I've been the look up people. I've been like, maybe I should be a sociopathic like politician that like gets voters because that's what voters want. They want us to manipulate them. Why else would Trump and Gavin Newsom and Biden, all these people get reelected all the time? We must want this. And then I realized, man, I can't live with myself. I can't go to bed at night. I can't sleep well. I'd rather just chill, eat some good food, watch Netflix, get high, maybe have a baby. But why? Why do I want something like that and people want other things? Why do you want what you want? Why do we have this illusion that we're all going to come together one day to like help or save the world? Why do we think being online means something? FD Signifier said something so great. He said, as YouTubers, we're just entertainers. We're really not out there doing the work the way people are doing the work. And I agree with him. I'm not. I am no way an activist anymore. I'm retired. Okay? I don't do that anymore. Because when I was there, not enough was getting done, in my opinion, because too many people wanted different things. So is homogeny the answer? Is all being the same the answer? Is eradicating culture the answer? Probably not. I just don't think it will happen that way. Even if you had a whole planet full of fives, all introspective, all zenned out, it wouldn't matter. Because we would give birth to babies and babies have free will and they would make their own choices. And I don't know if my baby's going to murder someone one day. I don't know that. You can pretend to know it. You can say, I'm going to be the most perfect parent and that would never happen to my kid. You don't know what kind of brain your kid's about to be born with. There is this bubble that I was raised in, this understanding that I've seen across many bubbles. So more or less it's a thought process that extends past bubbles or into different bubbles of a pathway. Of a certain track, a certain association leads you down a certain conclusion. Let's say in this movie, he's the scientist nerd who has a sweet wife and sweet kids, who becomes the savior along with Jennifer Lawrence, who becomes the celebrity who hangs out with Hollywood people. Hollywood people tend to be corrupt, cheaters, liars, the whole gambit. Then he gets tempted into temptation and becomes a liar and a cheater. And then he has that option at the end when his wife catches him. Do you want to be the liar and the cheater? Do you want to be somebody else? Well, temporarily, he chooses to be the liar and the cheater. And after realizing time and time again that it was eating at him, at his conscience, he exploded and quit.
Dr. Rand, you sure you're okay? You want a glass of water? Or?
I don't feel so good.
All right. So I think what we'll do is we'll go to commercial break. We will be right back.
Please, Bree, don't cut away. Let me say something.
Well, you came to the right place because on this show we like to say things.
Oh, would you please just stop being so fucking pleasant? I'm sorry, but not everything needs to sound so goddamn clever or charming or likable all the time. Sometimes we need to just be able to say things to one another. We need to hear things. Look, let's establish once again that there is a huge comet headed towards Earth. And the reason we know that there is a comet is because we saw it. We saw it with our own eyes using a telescope. I mean, for God's sakes, we took a fucking picture of it. What other proof do we need? And if we can't all agree at the bare minimum that a giant comet the size of Mount Everest hurtling its way towards planet Earth is not a fucking good thing, then what the hell happened to us? I mean, my God, how do we even talk to each other? What have we done to ourselves? How do we fix it? I think this whole administration has completely lost their fucking mind! And I think we're all gonna die! Look, I just want to go home. I just want to go home.
Went home and spent time with his family. And his wife accepted him back into her arms for two reasons, I think. One, either the character was understanding that humans are going to human and he was having a very human breakdown of his own morals and values. Or she figured it's the end of the world. I want to be with you anyways. Could have been either. I kind of saw it as the former, but everyone interpreted it differently. It's interesting in the film, it becomes a political back and forth, the comet. Should we blow up the comet for minerals? Should we even say it exists? Should we all bunker down? Should we try to stop it? Should we let it happen? Jennifer Lawrence goes home to her parents and they open the door and right away they say, no politics. And she goes, what? They go, no politics. The world is divided already. I don't want to talk about politics. And you know those people. Those are real people. They live in the world. They don't want to talk about politics. That's fine. Because see, I think that's the problem is like I'm making a statement that sounds like I think you should change because I think a part of me thinks the world should change. But another part of me thinks the world is exactly the way it is and how it's always been and it's not going to change because somebody has to be that trope. Somebody has to be the person that goes, no politics at the dinner table. And someone has to be the person that's like, take down your racist grandma. And somebody has to be the person that's like the sleazy politician. And somebody has to be, it's not that somebody has to be, it's just that humans are. I know my trope. I know my archetype. I know why I am who I am. I know why I'll probably end up doing what I do in the future. I understand that my life makes sense because of who I am. I can't be anyone but Brittany, and I can't be anyone but the stereotype that is in conjunction with my personality type. Now, in my own life, in front of my partner, let's say, obviously he knows who I really am. He knows who I am past the stereotypes. But the world isn't obligated to see me past that. It'd be nice. It'd be great. But genuinely, this movie is exactly how I imagine most twos or most people in the world are seeing each other, through this lens of those people over there. The lens of, oh, I'm not this though. I'm self-aware, but no one else is. Or I'm smart, but no one else is. Or I know what's good for the world, but nobody else does. Which frankly, I think we all hold those thoughts, right? We all think we have the right answers, but the truth is I only have the answers for me. And that really upsets people. I've seen that. I've seen that in people where they're like, no, tell people what to do. I can't. Because if I did, I'd ask you not to kill, steal, lie, or torment people. And that's too much of an ask for humanity. Going back to that concept of how would you tell the world that it's dying? Like how would you like to get that information? Leonardo DiCaprio eventually yells because he freaks out. Jennifer Lawrence yells because she freaks out because no one's doing anything. It kind of feels like those guys on the side of the streets who are like, the end of the world is coming. They look crazy because you're like, please, I'm alive today. I'm going to be alive tomorrow. My bills are going to be paid next month. And at the same time, there is sort of this reality in which I think if the end of the world was coming, not only would we not believe it, but we wouldn't do anything about it, really, because I don't think there's anything to do. I think if the end of civilization is going to happen through climate change and resource shortage, it's already happening and we're not doing anything about it. And I think that's okay, but I think that is what's happening. And I think people are okay with it, so I have to be okay with it. Because if I freak out and start wanting to change the world, no one's going to do it. Not enough for it to count. And also, why would we do it? Because I, Brittany, think we're evolved animals over time. I don't think I'm obligated to have a baby, nor do I think it matters if there's a baby alive tomorrow. I don't think it matters if we humans exist in 1,000 years. I just don't think it matters. It's like saying, do I think it matters that animals are going extinct? We don't care. Animals go extinct every day. I remember going to the San Diego Zoo and seeing one of the last white rhinos before they went extinct. Okay, we're the white rhino. We are going to go extinct. The question is there a way to bring people together to stop the end of civilization? And as of right now, absolutely not. We can't even decide who's the good and bad guy with Ukraine-Russia. We can't decide who's the good guy and bad guy between Kim Kardashian and Khloe. We can't decide who's the good and bad guy between our own family members. So I think it's better to let it go. Like in some ways, here's a trolley question for you. If you were the scientist who discovered the comet was going to hit the Earth, would you warn people or not? Some part of me wants to say I wouldn't warn any of you, because what would be the point? We're all going to die. It's going to happen. So why would I do that? And the idea behind it is two reasons. It gives people a chance to live out their best days how they want, or it causes a panic and they all kill you in a mob, or they ostracize you and fire you from your job, or they don't let you in the normal part of society. So there's no advantage to appealing to the masses because the masses as a collective are destructive. The masses as a collective are also kind of useless and just like stroking their own egos. Do you remember during the BLM riots how all these countries around the world marched for Black people? How do Black people feel about that now? How's that systematic racism treating you now? Is it better? Because white people in Australia were cheering for you? So as the movie is wrapping up and as my frustrations are wrapping up watching the film, because again, I feel like I'll say something. Like we all live in bubbles. And people are like, Brittany's a crazy crystal girl. But then you watch this movie and you're like, yeah, look at those don't look up people. You're the don't look up people. We're all the don't look up people. Until you acknowledge you do not know things and you're just trusting other people, or you're going on a whim to such a degree, you're choosing a God that you've never met, you're choosing a politician you've never met, you're choosing a priest you've never met, a scientist you've never met. That's all good and well. I get it. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We have faith in other people. It's all well and good. It's what keeps humans going. But until you acknowledge of how much we don't know and you're open to that idea without it shattering your whole reality, it just doesn't make sense to care if the comet hits. What are you living for? If you're religious, you should want to die. God is waiting for you. If you're a secularist, who cares? You're an evolved animal over time. What does it matter if you die? Why do people want to live and still live the lying, cheating, murdering lives they do? Why do people say they like have a great life, their life is great, when you're obviously not okay? So again, what does it mean to be okay? I think there is a sense of self that occurs, that arises from the ashes of all of our problems. Let's say my PTSD, my borderline, my trauma, my everything. There's a version of Brittany when she's genuinely just outside, drinking up a cup of coffee in the morning, listening to the birds, watching the snow melt. And that is the best form of existing I ever have. With my partner now, it's heightened. Now we do that together. And it is the best experience in the whole world. And it is better than any experience I've ever had in my whole life. Ever. But it involves no other people. It involves no TV. It involves no noises except nature. It involves us just sitting down and being. And if we all just sat down and just were, I wonder if that would help humanity. But I'm not so sure. I'm pretty sure a lot of the activism we encourage is actually the cause for a lot of the harm that ends up happening, like in this movie. They panic, they riot, they tear down things, they protest, they hate, they become divisive. All, the road to hell is paved in good intentions, all on the backs of good intentions. So the comet hits and everyone dies, except for Jason, who ends up surviving somehow. It was so funny. Jonah Hill was great in this movie. And he starts to record. He's like, hey guys, last stream on Earth. It's an after credit scene if you guys haven't seen it. Everyone dies except for the select rich people who end up on a ship to travel like 25,000 years into the future. And funny enough, it's mostly old people. So again, where's the procreation here? What is this for? Why? Who wants to live this much, but then live one of the most shallow and selfish existences? But maybe is that the lesson? Is the lesson that bad people want to keep living and good people are willing to die? That seems like a weird message, but at the same time, maybe the right message. And that's it. Cool. I just watched a whole movie about bubbles interacting with one another. A complete mockumentary, meaning just a reflection of what's happening right now. Let me tell you, my work is predicated on this idea, this theory I've come up with, this understanding of my own existence and existing, that I think we don't know what we're doing here on this planet. That I think we are guessing, and we're doing our best to guess, and we're doing our best to be good people. But I know too many people that are good, that cheat and hurt people. I know too many good people that are in bad positions where they feel pressured to do bad things. I know too many good people, and maybe I should change my language to say more neutral people, but I don't. I think people are good. I think people are well-intentioned, but I think your intentions are hurting people. I think we're not being honest about what we want. I have so many of my friends who are the best, most wonderful people, but fuck, all of them are always telling me what they want from me. They're always telling me, you don't believe that, you want this. My mom is always telling me, no, Batsy, you think this. I can't even get my own family and friends to understand me, to see me. And we expect the world to understand us and see us. I don't know why we do that, but I think that is the mistake. I think it is better to see yourself and to seek out whatever wonderful relationships you can have with people. And if you're lucky, like I feel very lucky, you get to meet someone on this planet who really does see you in a way that fulfills you in that particular way. And that's really special. I don't think it's necessary. I felt pretty fulfilled before I met him, but it was really cool to meet profoundly amazing to meet another person who I feel like fulfills me and sees me. And that feels like a good life. We don't kill, we don't rape, we don't steal. We're trying our best to be good people. We've both struggled with lying in the past in our 20s, of course, and because that's a part of culture. Culture tells you to lie. Lying is a very part of culture. It's in everything. And so I'm trying very hard not to lie. I'm trying hard to be transparent. It's really hard. There's almost no benefits to being authentic or transparent with other people because they will hurt you until they don't. Some people you will meet and they will understand you. Does that make sense? I know it sounds insane because you're thinking, well, what are you selling me? I am selling you another way to interact with reality. When I meet my mother, or I talk to my mother, I talk to my sister, I talk to my family, and they're only partially seeing me, I only can partially be authentic, right? When I'm with my partner, because he mostly sees me almost so well, it's insane, I get to be authentically myself. The one time on this whole planet I've ever been myself truly is with this person and with myself when I'm alone. But otherwise, everyone gets hurt. Everyone I talk to has moments. Everyone projects. I do it too. We're not perfect. When you can't see each other, it's a struggle. So when I created the levels as a concept of introspection, it asked the self, what are you doing here and what is the purpose? Is the purpose to make blogs about how much Kim Kardashian's butt has shrunk or grown? That's fine. I'm not judging that. But that is like a person's existence, which is fine. Are you a person who's like a chronic cheater? Are you a person who's like addicted to gambling? Are you a person who's religious? Are you a person who does this, does that? You get to decide. But until you realize you can really decide, you're probably going to feel like you're in a script, or the Matrix is coming for you, or there's a conspiracy about the elites. The elites don't care about you. They just want to get on their spaceship and stay young for the next 100 years. That's it. It's not that deep, but it is incredibly profound to realize how little we know and to realize you don't have to live this way unless you want to. I would be more fine with people leaving like horrible billionaires as long as that was a choice they made. versus, which is worse because you're like super judgy now, but then it's worse when I see people who are just like, I have to live this way. I guess. Do you? Do you? Or do you just feel like you have to live this way right now? It was just a movie about life. And no one's going to change and nothing's going to shift because we like it this way. And I think we need to start admitting that. Because don't get me wrong, I love me some reality TV. Is it toxic? Is it bad for the people on the shows? 100%. Do I watch it? 100%. If it didn't exist, would I create it? No. And that's the difference. I would never create a reality TV show. It is so bad for mental health. It's so bad for people. But if somebody else creates it, will I engage with it? Yeah. The same way you buy iPhones and Nike shoes. We don't really care what's going on as long as we're not the ones who did it, even if we're the reasons it exists. Ooh, I love it. Okay, the cycle of life. That's it. That's my thoughts. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. And I don't know what the answer is. But this movie, a little too close to home and a little too boring. Everybody knows this about the world. We know we live in bubbles. We just don't want to admit it because then we'd have to, pop the bubble. But you don't have to. Don't pop the bubble. Do your thing. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Stuck in my head, in real life I'm in bed. My belly's being fed and I'm okay. I'm just fine, yet all I do is whine. Not to you in my mind, cause I know I don't make sense. I've been nothing but blessed. So why's my life a mess? Please tell me, cause I'm sick of thinking. Yeah, I'm sick of reaching out for the truth and living life as a fool. Dun, 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 dun.